Hello fellow collectors and welcome to Long's Toys. Another year is almost over, and as we get ready to welcome 2022, I thought it would be fun to go back and look through all the Transformer releases for 2021, and I'm just giving you my personal top 10. Now I want to preface this by saying this is in no means a definitive best of list. These are my personal top 10. I understand people are going to disagree, and as long as we do it in a fun and respectful way, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. Tell me who your favorites were, if there's anyone on the list that you loved, if there's someone I missed that was your personal favorite. Just as long as we're all nice to each other in the comments, I'd love to hear from you guys. Tell me who your favorites were. But I also want to start out here with a couple of honorable mentions. So these guys didn't make the list, but they're still figures I really enjoyed. Cyberverse Deluxe Class Slug came very close to being the only Cyberverse figure on the list. He didn't make it for a reason I'll point out a little bit later on, but he's a really solid figure. I just did the review for this guy, and he almost snuck onto the list at the last minute. I really like this figure. I mean, it's a really fun transformation. The dinosaur mode, the robot mode all look really great. Really nice accessories. I definitely recommend picking this one up. We have Origins Bumblebee here, which is a figure I feel like the fandom has wanted for a long time. He also came really close to making the list, but just at the last minute, there were so many good figures this year, guys. I want to say that too. There were so many figures I wanted to put on this list. I could have easily done a top 20, but I wanted to kind of keep it down to 10 just so the video didn't go on forever. And so this guy just missed the cut. But it's a really fun figure. I mean, the robot mode I think looks good. Yes, he does have a bit of kibble, but they handled it pretty well. And he does transform into that weird flying saucer thing we saw back in the More Than Meets the Eye opening 3-parter. Now come on and just give us a Wheeljack as well. That's what we really need at this point. I need the boxy Wheeljack from the same episode. Then we come up to Fangry. I'm a huge Master Force fan, and so I wanted to put Fangry on the list, but just the fact that he's, the fourth use of this mold, I just couldn't do it. I mean, I think it works out. I think it was a good use of the mold, and I'm happy to have a Headmaster Fangry figure, but he's also got really loose knee joints here, which I think is just mold degradation, just because they've used it so many times at this point. But he still looks good, and I'm happy to have him. But he just, couldn't make the list for obvious reasons. And I kind of feel like Sideswipe is in the same boat here. It's a great looking figure. I mean, Earth Mode Sideswipe looks really good. But at this point, we have 15 of this mold. We just do. I mean, it's a great mold, and they've done it well. But when you think back of all the different releases, we've had Sideswipe, we've had Deep Cover, we've had Gigawatt, we've had so many different uses of this mold. And he's great. He looks fantastic. I really do like this figure quite a bit. I just felt like I couldn't have him take a spot on the list because really this mold came out years ago. And so he didn't really count as 2021. Kind of the same for Fangry here. So I wanted to just shout him out because I did really enjoy them, but I just felt like I couldn't put them on the list for that reason. So just wanted to do a couple honorable mentions and just kind of set the groundwork here for what I'm doing with my list. But yeah, so let's go ahead. We'll get on to it with number 10. Alright, so the number 10 spot goes to Kingdom Huffer. And I'm sure a lot of people right off the bat are going to disagree with this. Please don't let it sour you on the rest of my list. It's not even the best figure, it's just a figure that really makes me happy. The fact that it even exists. Because honestly, for years, Huffer and Pipes never really got any love. They really just got whatever Legends Optimus Prime repaint was available. Because, Hasbro had to do something with the mold, and who else turns into a truck? Okay, here, Orange makes it Huffer. Blue makes it Pipes, but he really needed his own dedicated figure, and I think they did a really nice job with it. Yes, I'm not crazy about the gap of air there in the wheel well, but you have this kind of cool, like, built-up side configuration where you can take these off and put them together as a gun. This piece can come off as a shield, and then it's a pretty fun and simple transformation, which I'm just going to go through real quick. I'm not going to do detailed transformation instructions. I have individual videos for all these guys, so if you're looking for that, definitely check out those videos. I just wanted to kind of run through this pretty quickly. Oops, as I pop the wheel off. I will say that is something that can pop off fairly easily, but it's very simple to just pop it right back in, which I do appreciate. So we will pop this up here and click this into place and then drop this down. And what you're left with is a pretty awesome little robot mode. He looks good. It looks like Huffer, really nice paint applications, good articulation. It's just a fun little figure. And like I said, it's just the fact that he finally got his own mold. And of course they're giving it to us as pipes. I don't have that one yet, but I do have these other two repaints. They went and gave us Road Ranger and Puffer, which is pretty fantastic. So by the time Pipes comes out, you'll have almost a complete Sentai team of these little guys. I understand it's not the best figure, but it's just one that really makes me happy, and I'm really happy that, you know, this little guy finally got some love. And it's a fun little figure. I really like it quite a bit. And so he just snuck on the list to grab the number 10 spot. So the number 9 spot goes to Generation Select's Artfire, and I know technically he's a repaint of a remold of Grapple, but Grapple wouldn't have been able to make a top 10 list because he had that problem with the peg getting stuck in the feet and breaking off, and that was something that they definitely fixed for Inferno, who also came out this year, and I need to recognize this mold because it's a really solid mold. It's fairly simplistic, but it's very, very similar and kind of really harkens back to the original G1 Inferno, like the way it transforms, which I always thought was really fun. And I just love the way you can store all of his accessories here in both vehicle mode and robot mode, which I'll show off in a minute. But you have all these beautiful effect pieces, which I really like. I'm going to start taking the accessories off here. You have the little Target Master buddy, which if you guys know me, I'm a sucker for all the little Headmasters and Target Masters and all the little companion robots. I always think they're such a fun time. And it is just a basic Siege Target Master, but he's still really fun. And he just comes with a ton of accessories. You even have this additional piece for if you want to swap out the hand that can store on the side. So it's just really neat that you can actually store everything in here. I always appreciate weapon storage on a figure, whether it's an action figure, a transformer, or whatever. Let me flip out the hands here. Now, technically, I don't think Artfire uses that little accessory, but you can pop it in there if you want a more classic Inferno look. I like that they still included it with the figure. And it's a pretty simplistic transformation, but it totally works. Flip the feet around here. Flip this up. And then we have to reveal the head. Flipping this around, and then this needs to... This on mine always gets kind of stuck, and I don't know why that is. Probably because I'm not clearing something, but I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but there we go. Once it goes down, it's perfectly fine. It's just that, and then we clip the head in. Let me zoom out a bit. And these wings on the side, I love that they kept those. So there we go. His head's flipping off again. But it's just a really great figure. I mean, I love the color scheme. Inferno's very red, which is what he's supposed to be, and that makes total sense. But just putting in this little pop of white and blue, I just think really works. And he has all these accessories again, so we can give him the gun. We can peg this gun in over here, and then we can give the effect pieces back. And the nice thing is, if you don't want to use this as one of the hands, you can just still completely store it right here on the back. If I can actually peg it in. There we go. So I like that. I will say that the effect pieces are a little loose. I'm constantly knocking them off, but it's not a big deal. So I just really like this figure. I think Artfire is a really fun Target Master. It's something we didn't really get here in the States back in the day. He was a Japanese exclusive character, but now that we've kind of gotten him a couple times, I always look forward to any Inferno repaints. They did the same thing with the Masterpiece, and I got that one too. I've just had to acknowledge this mold because, like I said, it's a really great mold. It's very reminiscent of the original G1 toy. Transforms very similarly. But he just beats out Inferno a little bit because I just like this color scheme a little bit more. Plus, he has a Target Master friend. So you can't go wrong. So I love this one. Definitely recommend it. And that's why he's getting the number 9 spot. So the number 8 spot goes to Kingdom Tigatron. I really like this figure. I've always been a big fan of Tigatron. White Tiger has always been one of my favorite animals. And with this mold, they just took all the problems of the Cheetor mold and just fixed them by being able to upscale the figure. It kind of makes me wish that they would go back and do a Voyager Cheetor now that they could fix some of these things. You have a little tail accessory that pops off, and he does include that weird intestines gun that I really wish Cheetor had come with. Now, there's nowhere to store it on the Tiger mode, but that's not a big deal. I'm just glad it exists. It looks weird, and I never really understood why that was a thing even back in the day with the original, but it was on the show, and it looks really great, and I'm really glad they included it here. The legs transform pretty much exactly the same as Cheetor, but I will say that they have these recessed panels now, so that the legs definitely sink in, and it just contours more and looks a lot better. They put in these extra heels, which are very helpful. So we can pop this around here. But where I really get into some of the engineering and the problems that they fixed from Cheetor is up in the top section, which as soon as I can get this heel out, we'll get up to. Let me zoom out a bit here. This whole transformation sequence with this, I just think, I mean, first of all, it just looks a lot better in Tiger mode because Cheetor kind of has those weird panels for the hands that just kind of stick out. This feels like one, you know, unanimous piece here. It really looks nice and all fits together really perfectly. But then when we go ahead and, well, the hands are supposed to come with it. You can see how, like, the side piece here that's going to come and hide the torso section fits really perfectly and flush with the hand, and then the side piece, it all really fits nicely together. So we can take these off, and we will get the hands out of the way here. You don't have any weird panels you have to flip around. The hands just kind of all stay nicely snug together where they're supposed to be. The head transforms so much easier by just having this piece open up. The whole robot head just flips out. You don't have to turn it around and then, you know, get it in there snug. You don't have to open the mouth of the cat to put this piece in here, which I'm always worried that's going to break with Cheetor. Let me get this in here like so. There we go. And then we can situate this. I mean, the head sculpt just looks amazing. That green metallic paint with the orange eyes. Really, really well done. Everything about this figure, I really love it. They did such a good job with this. And like I said, all the problems I had with Cheetor, they went back and fixed. And I really just feel like Cheetor should have been a Voyager as well, because I would love to have this figure done as Cheetor. The deluxe one just has, you know, it looks kind of skinny. It has a couple problems, but they really fixed everything for Tigatron. And like I said, out of the two, he is my favorite, so I'm glad that he got the better treatment. I don't think this works as a melee weapon, but you can just put it off to the side. You don't need it because you have this gun. So he's fantastic. I really love this figure. Cannot recommend him enough. Really, really looks fantastic. So the number 7 spot goes to Core Class Kingdom Soundwave, and I wanted Core Class to get some kind of representation on this list because I've been having a lot of fun with them. They've gone back and started doing all the G1 characters in Core Class, and it's something that I didn't think I needed, but I've actually really enjoyed. I kind of hope it's something that continues. I would love to get a lot of the G1 characters all in this same little Core Class because they're so fun to just kind of transform back and forth. And, you know, nice articulation, fun little figures. I'm really, really liking them. The fact that Soundwave comes with a tiny little laser beak. Now, it can't transform, which is totally reasonable given how small it is. But just the fact that he has one that can deploy and it's painted pretty nicely, I mean, that's just absolutely fantastic. So the reason I picked Soundwave to kind of represent all of the core classes because he's easily the best in my opinion. He's got the little battery accessories here that can peg onto the back, which are absolutely fantastic. And like I said, it's just a fun little quick transformation. Oops. Flip that around. And I'm just having a ton of fun with this size class, and I just can't get over how good Soundwave is. I mean, he just really, really looks absolutely fantastic. He can peg in all the little accessories. So he's got the shoulder cannon and he's got the gun. Really nicely detailed, really nicely painted. He's got the tiny little laser beak. And like I said, Optimus, Megatron, Starscream, they've all been really fun. I can't wait for them to continue. We've seen a Hot Rod that I'm definitely getting ready to track down. I just think this little size class is so fun. I want like a Prowl, an Ironhide, you know, keep them going. As long as they're all the same quality, I definitely want them to continue because I am having a ton of fun with this line. The number 6 spot goes to Kingdom Cyclonus. And this was one of the first Kingdom figures I was able to get a hold of, and I was just kind of blown away. The vehicle mode looks fantastic. The color scheme is on point. Perfect screen accurate color scheme. And the transformation for this guy is just kind of nuts. I mean, some of these figures are basically like mini masterpieces. And it's awesome to just be able to get figures of this quality for, you know, this cheaper price point. Let me go ahead and open this up so that I can unhook this and then spin this around. But I mean, you can see all of the really nice intricate paint applications. You got a lot of nice metallic paint in here. These knee joints are a little weird, but they work. And I mean, just the fact that you can kind of pop this out to flip out the foot, then this collapses in, it's still completely flush. It's just really, really impressive. So we have our legs. Let me zoom out a bit more and angle the camera up here. This is, for me, where it gets really interesting when you open up the torso and the back plate here. And you have this kind of massive tower here that is kind of the fuselage of the vehicle mode. And this kind of opens up so that this can collapse in. Then you have another level that opens up so that this can kind of collapse in. And then all of that flips around with the head and then closes back up, and that's where we get the robot head. I mean, that's just kind of crazy to me. I really love that when I talk about the toy engineering. And I mean, that head sculpt is just perfect. You have the light piping there, you can see the orange eyes glowing. You have the really nice Decepticon symbol. And then we just kind of clean up the wings over here, folding these back. This flips up. And then we just pop this out for the hands. I mean, this is easily the best Cyclonus figure that we've ever gotten. I just really love everything about it. I mean, this could have been in the Studio Series 86 line, in my opinion. There are a couple figures that they just kind of decided to put in Kingdom for whatever reason, but I mean, this is just absolutely fantastic. It is a beautiful figure. Like I said, easily the best Cyclonus we've ever gotten. Hardly any kibble. I mean, this is exactly what the animation model looks like when it has the little canopy here on the back. I mean, it's just a beautiful, clean figure. The paint applications are wonderful. Very screen accurate. And like I said, just easily the best Cyclonus we've ever gotten. Here's the little gun that he comes with as well, which looks pretty sharp. So could not be happier with this figure. Number 5 on my list goes to Kingdom Dinobot. I really like this figure. Dinobot is a character that's been in need of a really good figure for quite some time. The original was okay. Then they redid that one, I want to say around 2011, 2010, somewhere in there. And they did the Universe one, and that was really, really not great. Here we have the tail that splits apart as we're used to with the sword inside, just like the original, but we have a really nice painted sword here, which I really appreciate. Plus it has the connection point on the side, and so you don't have to have him holding the sword straight out. This obviously does not spin like the original, but still pretty cool. We have the dino head, which I think looks pretty good. Nicely painted eyes, teeth, inside of the mouth is painted. You have opening and closing jaw, even though it is a little wonky, but it still works. And just the way this guy transforms is kind of bonkers, the way they were able to get the legs to fold under here. Now, I will admit, you do kind of still see the hips very prominently here on the front, but it's better than the original, which had the entire legs just hanging out right underneath his neck. Like the actual shins and feet were underneath his neck, if you guys remember that original figure at all. I'm really surprised that they haven't done that in the reissue line. I feel like he's a very popular character, so you would think that they would get to that sooner rather than later, but and it's just the transformation for this one is just kind of bonkers to me. The way this all works, it's just kind of crazy. You have these legs that open up just so you can fit them inside, and then they kind of close around here to form the shins. And then when you get into this section, it all gets kind of weird as well. Bringing this around so that we can... I'm trying to remember exactly how... Here we go. This is how this works. Then this pegs in here like this. This comes down. And then you tuck in the little raptor hands. And then this has to open up. Like so. Get the arms out of the way. And then tuck in the little raptor hands. I do kind of wish that the raptor hands had a little bit more in terms of posability, because they are a little weird. I don't know that I have this all the way. I think that's supposed to go in farther, but maybe it doesn't. Bring this down and around. So I really like this figure. I think the biggest thing for me is the head sculpt. That head sculpt is absolutely perfect. I mean, they nailed the animation model in terms of the head sculpt. He's got that disapproving growl smirk, which just looks great. The blue paint on the face looks amazing. The red eyes. The only thing missing is if they could have somehow, would have been a tall order, but if they would have had some way to make him have the green eyes with like an accessory with the lasers kind of pointing out. I think the Masterpiece did something like that. But again, this is a $30 figure, and that Masterpiece was, I think, over $100. So for what we got going on here, this figure is pretty fantastic. Plus we can go ahead and give him the sword, which, like I said, actually pegs in at an appropriate angle for him to wield it as a sword, which I appreciate. And then he's got the kind of spinner shield as well, which you can have him hold. So just a really fantastic figure. I mean, not a ton of kibble. Really, I think pays tribute to the, you know, animation model and everything like that. And that head sculpt is just absolutely fantastic. So the number 4 spot goes to Studio Series 86 Jazz. And I just really, really love this figure. This is something that I've wanted for a really long time. We've had so many Jazz figures in the past. We had one back with Reveal the Shield, or Thrilling 30, whatever line that one was technically in. And then we had one in Power of the Primes, and just none of them really hit the mark. But this one is absolutely perfect. I mean, the little Porsche mode is exactly what I remember from the original toy and the G1 cartoon. It looks absolutely fantastic. I'm also really happy that they did not try to work in that boombox gimmick that I feel like they always felt they had to work into Jazz, because in a couple episodes of the original cartoon, he would kind of pull out those speakers and use it to, you know, distract the Decepticons. I will say that this, when you have to unpeg this, it can be a little nerve-wracking. You just want to be a little careful. There we go. Once we get that unpegged, then it's not so much an issue anymore. But it's just a really solid Jazz figure that looks exactly like you want him to. And he just, like I said, for me, it's just something that I've really been waiting for years. Every time we got a Jazz figure, it just didn't quite hit the mark. And it bummed me out. Because Jazz is a really fun character. It's a mold that or I should say, you know, a figure that I've wanted for a long time. And I feel like maybe there were problems with the Porsche license, and that's why they couldn't really make it work. I have to, this is stuck for some reason. There we go. This comes down, this flips around, then this comes down and pegs into that. Yes, yes. Let me zoom out a little bit here. So this is, it's probably a little bit higher on the list than it should be, but it's like I said, it's a figure I've wanted for so long. It's a great figure. The transformation, I think, works. It's not super complicated, and the figure you're left with in robot mode looks exactly like you would want it to. He doesn't have the wings, which is another thing that I feel like Jazz always kind of had. That one from the Thrilling 30 always had the wings, and he didn't have the wings in the show, so I always wanted no wings in the robot mode. I understand the original toy had it, but this is a very, like, screen-accurate Jazz figure with a great head sculpt, great paint applications, articulation's good, very little kibble. He's just kind of got this little tight backpack on the back, and he's just great. I really, really love him. He was also one of the first Studio Series 86 figures that I got, and again, just kind of blown away with how everything worked, and just the fact that it was a really, really good Jazz, which is something we have not had in a long time. So I love the figure, and like I said, he's probably a little higher on the list than he deserves to be, but I just, every time, you know, I handle this figure, I'm just reminded there's really nowhere to go from here. This is kind of the perfect Jazz. There's not really much else they can do. He's pretty spot on. The number 3 spot goes to Studio Series Slug. Now, yes, he does come with Daniel, but this is not a part of the figure that I care about at all, but I wanted to at least show it off. I love what they're doing with the Studio Series Dinobots. They look fantastic. These are the Dinobot figures I've always wanted. The original G1s were fine, but obviously they were limited by the technology of their time. These are just fantastic. I mean, this Triceratops mode looks amazing. Looks just like the cartoon. Nice opening and closing mouth. You have the really nice blue paint for the eyes. The Autobot symbol here looking absolutely fantastic. And the transformation for these is just absolutely astounding. I mean, again, I use the phrase mini masterpiece because it's true. I'm just kind of blown away by what they're able to do. You even have the gun storing here in the tail, and it hides away perfectly. And this just kind of blows my mind. So you have this thing opening up. The shoulders here kind of accordion out, which is a little bit easier said than done, but you can get them to pop out here. And it's just what you wouldn't expect. These little pieces, they just kind of had to have them fold back. Then you have like this real mouth. I feel like with Slag or Slug, whatever you prefer to call him, you always have like a fake bottom mouth because it just doesn't kind of work out the other way. Let me see if I can... Oh, that's right. I have to, before I close these up, I have to bring this down so I can pop the head out. And that head sculpt is just perfect. They did a really nice job with that. Now I can close this back up and then close this up so you have that fake bottom mouth there for the torso. And then this section back here is kind of crazy. It's a little difficult to get this all pegged in, which is why I'm glad I'm showing it to you from the Dino mode into the robot mode. But it's really neat the way it all actually works. And you have the legs like all bunched up and kind of accordioned in on themselves. Really nice ratchets, as you can hear there. Really, really nice. Then you just spin the waist around. And then you have this whole section here that kind of really nicely folds up and kind of clicks into place. So that all just kind of, you know, folds in real nice. You have those wings. Let me zoom out here so you can actually see what's going on. This comes down. And you're just left with a really... Oh, I forgot this one section back here. We have to flip this up so we can fold those dino legs into the back legs to hide them. Hold on. I have to unclick this, don't I? There we go. This goes in. I mean, like I said, I use the phrase mini masterpieces because it's just a beautiful figure. And it's a nice, big, proper-sized Dinobot. Get these fists out, spin those around. Now, they don't come with their swords. I do still wish they came with their swords. I feel like that's an accessory I would have gladly traded Daniel for. I don't really understand why they keep giving us these tiny little companions to the Dinobots. I really don't need it. I would much rather just get more paint applications or more accessories. And I really cannot get this fist out of here. The other one came out pretty easily. There we go. Come on. Come on. You're so close. There it is. But yeah, what I was saying, I really wish they had their swords. We had nice ankle tilt here. We'll give him a gun. The guns look great. I mean, I really do. I like the gun a lot. And it's just, it's a good Dinobot figure. Like, it's a nice size. He's a little bigger than Optimus Prime, which I feel like is proper. In the cartoon, you know, the 3 Dinobots were always a little taller than him. You have a little bit of kibble here on the back, but it's really kind of nicely contained. I don't mind it. Everything is just kind of inside the legs here. It's just a solid Dinobot figure, and I'm really happy. I cannot wait to get Sludge so I can complete the trio. And, yeah, Slag just really knocks it out of the park for me. So with Slag coming in at number 3, you probably had no doubt that Grimlock was not far behind, and you'd be absolutely correct. He is taking my number 2 spot. when I use that phrase mini masterpiece, this is definitely the figure that I think of. I never had the original masterpiece Grimlock, but I had seen a lot of pictures and reviews, and I just feel like this is about as close to a masterpiece figure as you can get without spending that money. I mean, this is just an absolutely fantastic Grimlock figure. He looks amazing. Nice paint applications. He's got the nice little articulated T-Rex hands. The head looks fantastic, opening mouth and everything. The eyes are painted beautifully. He does have weapon storage like Slag, but I don't think it's as successful. Just kind of pegs in here. I'm going to just go ahead and take that off. But just the way that this transforms is just so amazing to me. Very similar to the original toy in certain respects, with you having the dino head and the wings kind of popping back here. This section, then we lift up the head. This flips up, again, very similar to the original toy. We split apart the legs here, and this is kind of where it gets really impressive to me, because you have this section lift up. Instead of just having those tail pieces fly down to the side like the original G1 toy, this is going to fold up here so that you can bring this around. That snaps into place, and then this hides here, and then you just have like a complete leg with absolutely no kibble whatsoever. It's just really simple but beautifully engineered, and they have just done such an amazing job with these Dinobots, and I cannot wait for Sludge to complete that trio. He was always one of my favorites because I really did like the Brontosaurus as a kid, one of my favorite dinos. And this just all works so perfectly. Let me just finish popping out the hands here. You should pop out a little bit easier than Slag's hands. Slug, Slag, whatever. I still get tripped up because he used to be called Slag for so long. But I guess technically he's Slug now. But I mean, look at this figure. This is just absolutely beautiful. I mean, once we get everything posed. Again, I really wish they had their swords. I would much rather have it. I guess I didn't talk about he comes with Wheelie. Again, it's fine. I don't need it. I didn't ask for it. I feel like Wheelie with him makes a little bit more sense, especially because it's Studio Series, and they're talking about the interactions in the 86 movie. But this is just beautiful. I mean, you have the T-Rex head perfectly just flush against the back. The wings look amazing. The legs are so clean. There's no kibble there. It's just an absolutely perfect figure. The head sculpt looks amazing. Now, we have the blue visor. I know some people like the red visor because I think that was more toy accurate, but he definitely had the blue visor in the show, and that's what they're going for. You have the Autobot symbol there underneath this piece of plastic. I mean, this is just a pretty perfect figure. I really have no complaints. He looks amazing. I love the size. Like I said, he's a little bit bigger than kind of like a leader class Earthrise Optimus Prime, which is kind of my definitive Prime right now. And I think they all scale perfectly. I think he looks great. I always wanted them to be a little bit bigger, so I'm happy they're getting the leader class treatment for this line. It's just a pretty flawless figure, and I absolutely love it. And my number one pick for 2021 is Studio Series 86 Hot Rod. He's just one of my absolute favorite Transformers. He always has been. When I was a kid, I had the VHS for Transformers the movie, and I just watched it over and over and over and over and over again. And he just quickly became one of my favorites. I mean, I just love this absolutely ridiculous futuristic race car. I just think it's super fun. I love the stylized look to it. It's just absolutely one of my favorite alt modes. And it's also kind of why I like Hot Rod more than Rodimus Prime. I just love this alt mode so much more. And as a kid, I just watched the movie over and over again because it was the only way to see Hot Rod, because he's only Hot Rod in the movie. But I just really love what they did with this figure. I think it looks really, really cool. Transformation is very interesting. It's a little convoluted. Not convoluted, maybe that's too strong a word, but it's very, very intricate. We'll say intricate. And all the kind of moving panels and everything. But it works. It all really works. And I think what you're left with is a really solid figure. You got a lot of things to kind of pop up and swivel around 180 degrees and all that kind of stuff. Especially down here with the legs. You kind of have to lift this off so that you can actually de-accordion the legs out. And then these pieces fold back in. And then fold. We got to fold the feet out first. Fold this back in. And then it kind of gives you like a nice solid foot or leg. And it's nicely done. I mean, it really does kind of, you know, minimize the kibble by having everything kind of pop in here like this and then kind of fold in. And then when we rotate this back around, you're left with two pretty clean looking legs. I mean, yes, you can see the magenta on the back, but it's really not that big a deal. And then we come down to this section here. This opens up. We have to flip out the robot head, and let me zoom out a little bit so you can actually see what I'm doing. And then we have to get the arms out of the way so that this can kind of come down here and spin around again. And then we close this up. This rotates inside. And then this kind of comes and clips into place, and then we can bring the wing up on the back. And let me zoom out some more. And you're just left with a really excellent looking hot rod figure. Like, they did a really nice job with this. And I know it is kind of a deluxe at a Voyager price point, and that kind of upset a lot of people, but it's a really solid figure with really great paint applications. And he's got a lot of extra accessories and kind of tricked out features. I mean, he's got the like hand pieces that can flip around. You have the little, let me close this up correctly. The little kind of welding torch that he uses to fix Cup on Quintessa. You can flip this down and spin this around for this connection port. And then you have the little saw blade thing that he does bust out a couple times in the movie. And it spins and everything. So I really like having those two accessories. I think that's really cool. Let me flip this back around here. He also has those kind of like zoom in goggles. If you lift the head up and then you just kind of flip them out. Very simple, but definitely works. And then you can kind of utilize that he has in that one scene when they're invading Autobot City. Let me flip this back inside. And I mean, just the head sculpt in general. Very nice, very clean. Looks very, very good. I love the flame decal there on the chest with the Autobot symbol. All looks really sharp. It's just a good looking figure. I mean, he comes with two guns. I only have the one right now. I don't know where I put the other one. I'll have to find it. But he does have two guns. And you can kind of try to store some of this stuff on the back as well. There's little peg holes back here. I don't usually bother just because it's a lot of stuff to just kind of pile onto his back. But that functionality is there. And of course, he comes with the Matrix with this really cool effect piece that they have. And you can just kind of open up the hands. I like the way the hands have the opening fingers so that you can make this possible. And then just kind of have him opening the Matrix to light our darkest hour. It's a great figure. And like I said, it's one of my favorite characters, and it's a really solid figure. Not a lot of kibble. He's got a little bit on the back. Not too bad. But just all in all, this one's definitely, I think it was always going to be my favorite. I kind of, when I was compiling my list, you know, I tried to be objective. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is my list. So I'm going to pick my favorites. And I just love Hot Rod, and this is a really solid figure. So he is my #1 Transformer for all of 2021. So there you have it. There are my top 10 Transformers for 2021. I tried to be objective at first and just kind of, it was so hard to make the list. There were so many good Transformers this year that I said, you know what? Whatever objective list I try to do is not going to work. So I just had to stop and pick my personal top 10 favorites. And there's going to be ones on here that I know a lot of people think are missing. I'm probably sure a lot of you are screaming at this video right now, where Galvatron, where Rodimus Prime? And they did very closely make the list, I have to be honest. It was so hard to narrow it down to 10. Galvatron, for me personally, I don't really care for his alt mode. I mean, it's fine. It's just not that interesting to me. He's got a killer robot mode. Plus, mine came with the misassembled shoulders, so that kind of cost him points. And I know I could fix it on my own, but it's just kind of more trouble than it's worth to me personally. So, while he's an outstanding figure, that's kind of why he didn't make my list of top 10. And Rodimus Prime is a good figure. I know a lot of people really loved Rodimus Prime. But I just felt like they made the robot turn into like Hot Rod's alt mode, and it's just a little too long. The proportions are weird. And then when you plug it into the trailer, it looks a little off. It hangs out a little bit too much. And I just really felt like that wasn't necessary. You already have this amazing Hot Rod figure right here. I didn't need the robot for Rodimus Prime to transform into Hot Rod's alt mode. It could have just been a standard kind of cab piece that just pegged into the trailer, so the trailer looked like the alt mode of the cab and the trailer together looked better. I wish they would have done that. And so for that, it just kind of lost points in my book. Plus, I happen to just love Hot Rod more than Rodimus Prime, and I kind of didn't want to put both of them in. They could have probably both been in, but I just like Hot Rod more than Rodimus Prime. So again, this is my personal top 10. There were so many great Transformers this year. I couldn't possibly list them all. But if you guys want to shout out your favorites in the comments below, I just ask that you be respectful to everyone. You know, no name calling or anything like that. It's the holidays after all. But yeah, please let me know if there's ones that I didn't put on here that were your favorites. I'd love to hear from you. Or just give me your own personal top 10s in the comments below. I think that would be fun as well. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Something I don't usually do. I don't really do top 10 videos all that much, but I just thought since it's the end of the year it would be fun. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Happy holidays, everybody, whatever you celebrate. Happy New Year, of course. And let's look forward to a lot of great Transformers in 2022. So please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.